It now talks to us.
I know, that's a new one. That's
That is new. That is new. Okay. There we go. So, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Jenks Center. And we're so pleased that you're here today. I know that it's summertime and it's Saturday and you could be out, doing other things. So we truly appreciate that you're here and we're going to have a great time. I just want to remind you that you can sign up for our e-newsletter and that we are recording today. So if you don't want to be in the recording, you could turn off your camera at this time. I just want to go over quickly what we have going on for June. We have Eli Portman, who's going to be coming to do a two-part acrylic workshop with us. And you can also, when you sign up, you'll get the list on what you'll need. If you've been with him before, then you probably will have all the supplies for it. Maybe you'll have to get one or two canvases for that. We have a 57-year ride with the Cyrus Dallin Museum. They are just so interesting. They have the iconic Paul Revere statue, and I encourage you to sign up for that if you like history. That's definitely going to be a good one. We have the Ayurvedic series with Dr. Shaw, part 4, and you don't have to have come to the others to certainly learn something. And then we have our Acupressure Workshop. This is going to be how you can help other people, what you can do to help them with acupressure. We have the Rat Pack with Deborah Block. She's a professional entertainer. She's going to come and share that with us. We have Acrylic Painting Basics, the second part, that's on June 20th. If you've ever thought of flipping a house, this will be the event for you on June 22nd. I can't wait to see this. I think it's going to be really interesting with Marilyn Savage. She's done it quite a few times. She's a she's a IBM professional in management there. So Introduction to Hansi and Calligraphy, and that's with Mei Hung. So I've taken this course with her before. It's very interesting. We have a shop tour with a locomotive builder, Ed Hume. He's a PhD from MIT in engineering. He does 3D printing of these locomotives. I think, if you're into art, you might even be interested in this too, how he puts these together, and they run on butane and coal. They're not electric. He's really fascinating guy. He's also written books about it. We have Dances Dialogue with guest Deborah Boyle. She's from Winchester. She has the Winchester dance school, and that should be interesting to see what's going on over there. And then we want to thank the Cummings Foundation for their 3-year grant that actually expires this month, and they have endowed us with a 10-year grant. So we are so thankful to them for allowing us to bring all of this great programming to you. And that brings us to our program today, Styling Your Outdoor Space with Stacey Martin. And she is one of our best speakers. Truly love having her here. And Stacey, if you could just talk about maybe a little bit of your background for those who maybe haven't been here before. And that way we also have it on the recording. And I'm going to turn that over to you now. And thank you so much for being here.
Yes, of course. Well, thank you for having me. As many of you know who have seen me before, I really enjoy doing these presentations. And my favorite part is always the Q&A at the end to hear your personal design woes and to help you with some customized design solutions. So don't forget to save those questions for me at the end. But for those of you who don't know me, my name is Stacey Martin. I live next door in Stoneham, the town of Stoneham. And I own and operate an interior design firm here called the Freshmaker. I grew up in Vermont, so I always joke that you can take the girl out of Vermont, but you can't take the Vermont out of the girl. So I certainly infuse a lot of organic elements and natural materials into my clients' spaces and really try to help tell the story of their lives. So today, speaking of natural materials and outdoor elements, we are going to talk about styling your outdoor space. So many of you, I'm sure, have outdoor spaces, little patios, that sort of thing. And today we're going to talk about some definite must-haves to really take that space from bland to awesome. And we're also going to talk about some really cool DIY things that you can do, and some budget things that you can do, little things that are inexpensive, and ways to achieve some of the different things we're talking about today for not a lot of money, just some elbow grease and some creativity. So let's get into it. We're going to talk about designing your outdoor oasis, how to prep that patio for stylish enjoyment. And especially now when we can have people together again and that sort of thing, I think having an outdoor space that's warm and inviting feels to me even more important than ever before. So to really make your outdoor space sing, I really recommend that clients think about it, or anyone thinks about it, in terms of an indoor space. So you want to think about the floor of your space, you want to think about the walls, and you want to think about the ceiling. And I think what happens overhead in an outdoor space is actually one of the most missed elements in designing your outdoor space as a whole. As it does inside, design rules apply outdoors as well. So when you're thinking about styling your outdoor space, arranging that furniture, where to put the furniture, what to put in and around your little area, you really do want to think about the elements that we've talked about in the past. You want to think about scale and how big or small that furniture is in the space that you're working with. You want to think about your color palette. And it doesn't have, I get asked this question a lot, does the color palette of my outdoor space need to be the same as what I'm using inside? Not necessarily. Some people want that tropical oasis, which is going to call for brighter colors, versus maybe the more neutral palette that they have inside. That's totally fine, but you still do want to think about how those bright colors are going to work together with the other elements that you have around them, because it can, when you're decorating with color, it can sometimes sit on the edge of looking like an explosion in the crayon factory. And we don't want that. We want beauty. So another thing to think about is focal point. And even in your outdoor space, you know, as I've mentioned previously in the interior space, what is that focal point going to be? It can be that piece of furniture. It can be your fire pit. It can be the outdoor rug, but thinking about the star of the show, as many of you have heard me say, and then the other elements acting as the supporting cast. And then lighting. This is a really, really important one indoors, as you've heard me mention, but outdoors too. You don't just want overhead lighting. You also want lighting down at the ground level, mid-level, and above your head are all areas that you really want to have a variety of lighting sources so that you can really create the ambiance that you're looking for, depending on what you're using your outdoor space for. And all of those things together will definitely help you create that cozy and inviting, beautiful and relaxing outdoor space that you're looking for. So some of the things that we're going to talk about today, the key elements, will be grounding your space. It will be ways to create privacy, which is always really important. You don't want Mr. or Mrs. Smith to be able to watch exactly what you're doing, right, in your backyard, or see what you're reading, or how you look in your bathing suit. Focal point, as we mentioned, and points of interest. So don't forget about bringing things like art out into your space. Bug control, we'll talk about some interesting unconventional ways to do that. Lighting, we just talked about relaxation and conversation, which are those two key things that you really want to make sure you're setting your space up to have. And then shade, having some elements that will help create shade in your space are all really important. So let's start from the ground up, as I like to say. Let's start with the floor. So if you look at this image on the left, it's a gorgeous patio in and of itself. That stonework is beautiful, but it just doesn't really feel inviting. It kind of feels open and just sort of, not pulled together per se. And the reason is because there's nothing really to ground that particular area. So if you look at the image on the right, it's still a dining area in a large space, but using that outdoor carpeting to really set that area where you will be dining is the key element in making sure that your area is grounded. And you don't have to use outdoor carpeting. You can also use a variety of materials. So if you have a really large outdoor space, maybe having one area that's some pea gravel, and that's where you have your dining space or your fire pit space or whatever it is. And especially if you have an outdoor space that's relatively large, it's going to be even more important to have different elements that ground the different areas of your space, because more likely than not, if you have a large outdoor space, you're not going to have it be used for just one thing. It's going to be multifunctional. And so creating, again, those zones, as I like to say, with a variety of materials on the ground is going to be really important in making it feel inviting and pulled together. And in the image on the right, you can see they've used grass, but you could also go and get a piece of inexpensive Astroturf. I know you're thinking Astroturf like bad mini golf, but there actually have been a lot of developments in faux turf that look really great. And you can cut them to size. They're really easy to work with. You don't have to worry about watering and fertilizers and all the things. So that can also be a really great fun textural element to add to your outdoor space to help set the tone and to designate the different areas. And the walls, different ways to create privacy. This is a fun one for me because there are so many different ways that you can DIY creating privacy in your outdoor space that don't have to be actual physical walls. So one fun one that I love recommending is a foldable screen. So if you see in the image on the left, there's this beautiful ornate screen behind the sofa. And what's great about the screens is, number one, they're lightweight. You can purchase them almost anywhere from Target to Home Goods, Amazon. And so there's a variety of styles and price points that really can work for most any budget. What's also really great about a movable screen to create privacy is that you can move it and you can kind of tuck it around the area that you're sitting in. If you have a few areas, you can move it with you, or you can even move it around to help create some shade in your space. And this image on the right is also a DIY screen. This one is not movable. It would be too big for that, but it's just a DIY slat wall that's, maybe it's painted the same color as the house, or they just wanted a brighter space to pop that gray sofa. And it's just right there in front of the neighbor's fence. And so creating something simple as a place, it almost acts as an accent wall as well, which is a beautiful focal point. And it gives you, again, just that added level of privacy. So things like tall planters with plants in them, some DIY walls, or selective plant groupings, like this image on the right. They don't have, that fence is a little bit see-through. They don't have a lot of privacy there, but by clustering those plants specifically around that area where they're going to eat, when you're sitting down, it does help obscure a little bit what you're doing. And so if you don't have the ability to create a full wall, even just tucking your plants closer to your furniture can really help create that privacy. This image on the right is on the left is another DIY option that I love. Just gathering some twigs and nailing them to a pre-made or a homemade framework can really give you a beautiful organic look. You could plant some climbing vines in front of that, and now you have this beautiful green wall, something like that. Again, you could gather the sticks from the forest and it's totally free. So I don't know if you guys have seen the living wall. It's a kind of a trend that's been going on for a couple of years now. It's something that I absolutely love. And so now they sell all kinds of pockets that you can attach to a wall. It's like a little felt pocket, and you just hang them on a wall, or you can make a little framework and hang them on your framework and plant the plants right in these little felt pockets, and they'll drape over the edge and create what you see here on the left, which is this living wall. Or, as I have done in the past, you can just take an inexpensive piece of plywood and a hot glue gun and a trip to Michael's and gather some faux plants and glue them in a variety of ways, you know, kind of making sure that the colors of the variety of leaves flow in a way that feels interesting and realistic. But you can hot glue gun a piece of wood and lean it up against a lower deck railing, and then boom, you have a gorgeous privacy wall. Those faux plants are plastic, so they can live outside. I would definitely recommend pulling it in the winter if you can, but they'll last a while outside. I'm speaking from experience. And it gives you this gorgeous, luxurious jungle look, you know, with a little bit of elbow grease, and you don't have to worry about keeping it alive. So I think that is another really cool way to create a privacy wall if you have the time. Another super simple way, as you guys I'm sure have seen, is a curtain. And they sell these little wires now, and you just get little clips for them, and you can just hang the wire right across your deck, and you could do something as inexpensive as a beautiful tapestry. So it doesn't have to be an expensive pair of curtains. I have also used, because they're more water resistant, a shower curtain outside. And so that's something that, you know, it's still fabric, but a shower curtain is designed to live in moisture, so it lasts a little bit longer. So things like that as well, if you want to use some fabrics. It doesn't need to be expensive, and it doesn't require a massive framework to really hang it up around your outdoor space to get that feeling of privacy. And there's also something lovely about it when it blows in the breeze. It just, to me, creates this sort of, you know, tropical experience. Another really easy way to create privacy is thinking about, are there any areas of the yard that are unused? You know, the side of the house, or an area on the side of the deck. Is there a little nook that's created that's not used? Decorating that and styling it out, it becomes a wonderful little nook for a conversation area, a place to read. Generally, those areas are a little bit more shaded. So again, thinking about an unused nook in your yard and utilizing an existing wall to create that privacy wall is another great way to style your outdoor space. And then all of the areas are used. One of the other things I love to recommend is a hanging garden. And you can see this one on the left is just hanging on some rope with a variety of knots tied in it. So you could just go to your local garden center, grab your favorite hanging plants and some twine, and then hang them at different lengths, and boom, you have a hanging garden that can now help obscure your backyard oasis and give you a little bit more privacy. And I had mentioned at the beginning about some taller planters, such as you see on the right. And if you can get some high grasses in there and things like that, that obviously creates a great privacy screen. But a really inexpensive DIY way to do it as well would be to pick up just some branches, either in your local forest or at your local florist or craft center, and put some branches in there. You can weave some Christmas lights in there, and now you have a really pretty light feature on the side of your outdoor space. But that's another way where you can get some separation, visual separation, without having to spend a ton of money on plantings. A lot of DIY stuff for you guys in there. Remember, I'm going to put all this on the blog later on, so you can reference it whenever you choose. So we talked a little bit about creating privacy walls. Now I want to talk a little bit more about focal points and having some points of interest that help move your eye around the space. So as you would in a living room, for example, it's really nice to think about ways in your outdoor space that you can have an impactful moment. What is the first thing that you see? And what objects are around you that help travel the eye and really create and add interest? So what I thought was really nice about this image on the left is the way they've used these lanterns to create a focal point. It almost acts as an accent wall behind that sofa. And at night, I'm sure it's beautiful with all of those lanterns really lit up, causing that backdrop. And then on the right, this is one of my absolute favorite outdoor solutions. And when it's done right, it's just stunning. And I actually don't see it used that often, but what it is, again, it's so gorgeous, is a mirror. So if you look behind the sofa here on the left, there's actually a mirror there. And what's so wonderful about adding a mirror to your outdoor space is it reflects the light, it makes it look larger, your space will look larger, but then it will reflect all those beautiful blooms and beautiful flowers that you have in the space. It just really adds another element of magic really to an outdoor space. So incorporating a mirror somewhere, whether it's leaning in a corner or it's on a fence, something like that, is a really wonderful way to create a focal point out there and really make the space look bigger. Some other fun things to think about are, what art pieces can I find or do I own that could live outside? Do I have things made out of wood, rattan, metal? Baskets are a great choice to decorate with outside, as you can see in the image on the right. Kind of hanging them in an interesting way on a fence is a great way to create an art piece outside. The image on the left, this person has a surfboard collection, and since they're meant to be in the water, surfboards and those sorts of things are also great items to decorate with outside. But anything else that you have, you know, even if it's a sculpture, something made of stone, all of those materials that can withstand water are great things to incorporate outside into your garden for decor items. Another thing that I really encourage people to do in their outdoor space is add artful objects to move your eye around. So if you look on the image on the left, this person has some more of those baskets like we talked about, and then they have a little wooden ladder for outdoor blankets. It just adds some height. It adds an element of making the outdoor space feel like you're inside a little bit, which I think is always a really nice touch. This obviously isn't for everyone, but they have a cow skull out there for the Southwest vibe, which I think also looks very cool. Some sculptural and interesting elements that really now make it feel like it's an indoor space, even though it's outside. And then the image on the right, I thought it was really interesting how they took baskets and created a gallery wall on the side of the house here for plants. So it sort of feels like a gallery wall with plants. And again, just some interest and artful objects to move your eye around the space. And all of those things really just help create a sense of welcome and just warmth to a space. The ceiling. Now, if you don't do anything else in your outdoor space, adding lights will be the thing that transforms it the most. So if you don't have lights now, I highly, highly recommend them. And you don't have to get super creative with figuring out a way to hang them up above you if that's just not available to you in the type of space that you have. I think wrapping them around the edge of a deck post totally works. I think wrapping them in some plants works. You can even string them around the back of the sofa or even on the ground if it's Christmas lights kind of around the space where you're sitting. All of those areas, pretty much anything is fair game to adding lighting to a space. I think it's one of the most affordable must-haves that you can put in your space. So I mentioned earlier, thinking about lighting from all levels, because if you just have task lighting, which I think of flood lamps or outdoor lamps lighting on the side of a house, you'll be able to see, but it won't create this beautiful atmosphere that I think can be really wonderful with outdoor spaces. So cafe lights are always a good choice. Christmas lights, as I mentioned, having some auxiliary lights like lanterns, things hanging in your trees. And, don't forget about the things that are around your space. If you can't have things hanging from tree to tree or draping overhead, as I mentioned, having something up high in a tree branch, or even having something hanging from some of those bird feeder hooks, things like that, are a great way to add some overhead ambiance to your space. Now, some people can be intimidated by real candles. You don't have to use real candles. In the instance of the image on the left, if this were my outdoor space, those lanterns would all have those battery operated LED candles, and then you could just turn them all on with a remote control, and boom, all of the space is lit, and it's beautiful and it's magical. The image on the right, fire pit. A fire pit is an awesome thing to have in an outdoor space. If you've got the space for it, and if you have it, some neighborhoods don't actually allow fire pits, and we'll talk about a DIY hack for that in a minute. But a fire pit is obviously another wonderful way to add that just warm, literally the warm ambiance to your outdoor space, whether it's a gas or a wood burning fire pit. And then candles, whether they're real or they're battery operated, solar powered, candles are just such a wonderful addition to an outdoor space. And they could be all citronella candles to help with pest control. And as I mentioned before, with the fire pit hack, if you don't have space for a fire pit or it's not allowed, there are some great DIY hacks that you can do with candles. So this one on the right is a really, really small example. It's just a metal bowl, and in the bottom, it appears to be shells or stones or something like that, with just some candles in the middle. I would probably recommend doing some hurricanes over them so they don't blow out quite as easily. But you can also always find, those galvanized metal pails or those big galvanized metal flower pots. One of those that's a little bit deeper with rocks and some candles in there. Then you have, boom, you have your fire pit right there. So you don't have to worry about actually building the fire, and you don't have to worry about breaking any of the neighborhood regulations. So a little DIY mini fire pit with candles is a wonderful hack to in times when you don't necessarily have the ability to have the fire pit. Overhead outdoor chandeliers are another wonderful addition to an outdoor space if you have an area for it. And one of the ways I have seen people do this, and I absolutely love it, is you can take a real chandelier that's just not wired and wrap it in Christmas lights. So it's an indoor object hanging outside, and it functions now with Christmas lights or solar powered lights. And it's just such a beautiful addition because it's this architectural structural element in a natural organic setting. And it just really adds this next level of just enchantment to an outdoor space, which I really love. And then the image on the left, you can DIY this, or you can purchase some of these. I'm sure you've seen these at home and garden stores, these kind of vine balls, and you can fill them with Christmas lights and hang them in your trees around, or you can hang them off the railing of your deck. And now you have these beautiful glowing orbs all around you. And they're fairly lightweight. So again, making a way that you could hang them above head, and then clustering them together to create one large light fixture out of several smaller ones would just be a gorgeous addition and add some beautiful lighting to any outdoor space. Now we're going to talk about throwing some shade, which is slang for giving dirty looks, if you don't know. But in this instance, we're actually going to be talking about shade. So, you know, many of you, I'm sure, are familiar with the outdoor umbrella, but we're going to talk about some other DIY hacks that you can use to get some shade in your spaces as well. So here you can see there's this thing called a sail, an outdoor sail. Sometimes it's called a shade sail or a sun sail, and it acts as a little awning overhead in an outdoor space. And what's great about it is it can be attached at any of the 3 points. And so it's really flexible for a variety of outdoor spaces versus an awning or something like that. But if that's not available to you, if you don't have the space for that, or if that's not in the budget, I've also experienced some really interesting DIY hacks that are beautiful, which are using tapestries, again, as we have mentioned earlier, to create privacy using some of the tapestries. So in this instance on the left, these people have just created it as a little tent roof or a little teepee. So it really just drapes over the whole area and creates this lovely little element of shade. And then on the right, you can just create, again, another sunshade by creating it over top of your space with some poles. And you know, again, it takes a little bit of elbow grease and some ingenuity, but if you're willing to put in the work, there are definitely ways that you can add this wow element to your backyard and get some shade without spending a ton of money. One thing I do want to mention on the image on the right is that this sunshade is very vibrant and loud, and it works with the image on the right because their furniture is also vibrant. But if you're looking to have a more serene and relaxed outdoor space, I would certainly let the furniture or even the pillows and the accessories be the things that are a little bit more colorful, and let the shade element kind of recede into the background and be in a neutral color. Another kind of overlooked element that I think is great for outdoor spaces are bamboo roller shades. So bamboo roller shades can be used for privacy. They can be used for shade. You can obviously roll them up and down vertically, but you could also drape them over the top of something and have this really cool light filtering element overhead. Or you could, on the image on the right, you could do something with some lattice and have some climbing vines that would eventually come overhead and shield you from the sun. So there's a lot of different options depending on your space that you can do that wouldn't cost a ton of money right up front for sure. Now, in general, one of the things that we talked about earlier is relaxation and conversation. So your outdoor space is really an extension of your indoor space, but it's a place that you go to relax, to enjoy the outdoors, you have friends over, you gather. So making sure there are elements in your outdoor space that foster those two things is really, really important. And this is another affordable must-have, and I'll explain why I'm saying that. So the number one element of relaxation is comfort. So outdoor patio furniture can be very, very expensive. I mean, very expensive. And so we don't always have it in the budget to buy that outdoor sofa or whatever it may be, right? So if that's the case, not a problem. There are so many different types of pillows and cushions that you can buy that are affordable that would allow you to doctor up that space and make it relaxing and make it comfortable, again, without spending a ton of money. I got my outdoor cushions from Target, and I think they were $12 a cushion for the seat and for the back, which I thought was an absolute steal. And so now my uncomfortable chairs are very comfortable, and they look great because I was able to mix and match some colors there and make them really interesting. So when I was saying a must-have, affordable must-have for an outdoor space, cushions and outdoor pillows are definitely an affordable must-have. So if you don't buy anything else for your outdoor space for the next 5 years, I would highly recommend buying some lighting fixture, whether it's a cafe light or Christmas light, and some outdoor pillows for sure. Now, another thing that I think is really important, which we talked about, is having a place to gather that encourages conversation. And I know we talked about the fire pit before, which is a wonderful, wonderful addition to a space, and making sure that there is a space all around the fire pit for everyone to gather. And what I really loved about the image on the left is, again, it doesn't have to be fancy and it doesn't have to be expensive for it to feel good. And so the image on the left, to me, even though it's just a bunch of horizontal logs, is a great place to sit and gather with your friends, and just softening those areas up with some sheepskins, some blankets, something on the log to make them a little bit more comfortable, and then some blankets to put around your shoulders, I think would just be a wonderful way to spend the evening with your friends, drinking some cocktails or some lavender lemonade. And now this is also another really important tip that you guys have probably heard me mention before, those of you who have joined me in the past: pulling the furniture together. So a lot of times inside the home, I see clients who have their furniture pushed all the way against the walls. And I think the thought process is that that makes the room feel larger, but it doesn't initiate conversation in a natural way because everyone is a little bit feels far away. And it also can make the room not feel as pulled together. So pulling your furniture together, resisting the urge to put it all on the edges of the deck or all on the edges of the patio, and really centralizing it in the middle of that patio or in the middle of that little conversation area, will definitely help make it feel cozier and more inviting and more well-styled and put together. And another thing that's great about that is now you can tuck plantings or you can tuck pots or different things around the outside of your conversation area. And now it really is starting to feel like you've got those walls that we talked about, and you've got this really nice, private, inviting space to hang out in. So pulling that stuff away from the walls and closer together to really facilitate conversation and to really make that zone is a huge help. Now, bug control. I know a lot of you will put on bug spray before you go out into your outdoor space, but I think it's also really important to think about some other ways that we can control bugs. And citronella candles are an obvious one. Now they have these beautiful, many of you have maybe seen them before, they have these beautiful citronella oil lanterns that come in a variety of styles, from really traditional to really modern, that can help keep those bugs at bay. But one of my favorite outdoor space hacks, which a lot of people are surprised to hear me say, is a beautiful metal fan. Like, a metal fan. But mosquitoes and other bugs, they can't land on you if it's windy. So having a fan integrated into your outdoor space that looks pretty, that looks like it's part of the landscape, of part of the design of your outdoor space, will really do wonders in keeping those little bugs off of you. I promise you. I actually do this on my own deck, and it is night and day when we do have the fan and when we don't. It certainly is something you can't leave out all the time, so that is something to consider. But when you can bring it out there and you have a space for it, it definitely does wonders in keeping those bugs at bay. So bring out those beautiful fans. So now that brings us to my favorite time in the presentation, which is analyzing an existing space and seeing what could be improved to make it the beautiful oasis that it can be. So if you see here in the image on the left, it has a ton of potential. It has a beautiful little grassy area. It's got some wonderful high fence with some vines on it, but what's not really working about it? Let's talk about that. So, is the seating area grounded? It actually is, because the rest of this space has looks like either pavers or gravel. So the seating area is grounded. Is there a focal point? Well, not really. So I think what I would recommend if these were my clients, that perhaps we hang a beautiful fabric piece on the fence behind the chairs. Maybe we lean some surfboards against it, or maybe we find a beautiful antique mirror on Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace and lean that against the back with some plantings in front and create a focal point there. Are there tall plants to create privacy? Well, there is a fence to create privacy, so that definitely works. But it would be nice to have some plantings on either side of that seating area. So I would recommend moving some of those plant pots on the left to either side of those chairs and a little bit in front to now start to create that really cozy zone. Is there a variety of lighting? Well, they do have some overhead lighting, which is awesome. So I would recommend a little coffee table in front of these chairs and then some candles on that. And then maybe something on the fence behind, whether it's some string lights that go vertically or it's some beautiful lanterns, which would look lovely. Something like that, I think would really help add some more ambient lighting to the space. And then, is the furniture comfortable and inviting? Well, Adirondack chairs, I think the style of them, the way that they're angled, is actually quite comfortable, but they don't really appear very inviting currently. So I would find some pillows that are in that, it looks like one chair on the right is a little bit of a seafoam color and the chair on the left is white. So I would find some seafoam and white pillows to now tie the chairs together, drape some blankets over them. You know, I love my sheepskin and decorating, so maybe put some sheepskins on the seats there. And now you're starting to really create a space that's inviting with just a few other details. This backyard has gone from, you know, not being pulled together to something that's really inviting that you would want to hang out in. And then this is my so much better. It's not a direct example of the improvement of the backyard, but you can get an idea of how that comfortable seating and the arrangement and the shade and all of the things really help make a space that feels inviting and comfortable. And the last thing I forgot to mention about the shade is that studies have shown that having something overhead actually makes you feel cozier. So that's another reason to add that lighting overhead or that shade overhead or those lanterns overhead, because it will make you feel more cozy while you're sitting outside. I thought that was really interesting. And the last thing I wanted to mention, speaking of outdoor spaces, before I finish up the presentation and take your questions, is I wanted to mention the garden tour, the Winchester Garden Tour, Saturday, June 19th. Tickets are $30. And so if that's something you're interested in, it'll be an outdoor space garden tour. Yeah, go pick up your awesome tickets. And again, if you're interested in reliving this presentation or any of the other ones that I have given in the past, or you want to know more about the design services that I offer or my background growing up in a musical house in Vermont, you can visit me at www.thefreshmaker.net and learn a little bit more. Thank you so much to everybody for coming out today. And now I would love to open it up to the Q&A, which is my favorite. Does anyone have any questions about how to make their outdoor space a little bit more inviting, or how to arrange furniture in a small space or anything like that?
I have a summer home. This is Betty Manassian. I have a summer home at Plum Island, and the wind is unbelievable. I have a deck on the back with an awning. I have a sunsetter awning.
Yes.
And so how do you decorate for wind?
That is a great question. I'm sure you've chased your pillows around quite a bit.
You chased anything that's out there.
Yes. So there are a couple of things that I generally recommend when it comes to wind. One of the things I recommend is using heavy, sorry, I saw a chat, so I got distracted. Using things that are obviously a little bit heavier. So if you can find furniture that's made out of some wrought iron, things like that, keeping things, do you have a railing around the deck?
We have this closed-in porch.
Oh, it's closed in.
It's about 5 feet high.
Okay, so there is a railing around
Yeah.
it. Yeah, so generally for wind, it can be a challenge depending on obviously how strong the wind is, but I usually recommend using the heaviest things that you can find when it comes to furniture, wrought iron furniture, things like that. Pillows are a little bit more challenging because outdoor pillows tend to be a little bit more lightweight materials to allow the water to go through them and evaporate more quickly. So in the past, I have recommended that people use just the indoor pillows and take them in when it's going to rain, because the downfill pillows and things like that tend to be heavier and won't get blown away in the same way. I also tend to suggest that the furniture and the items be lower, because the lower you can be in that space, you'll be more protected from the wind. And then clustering those big heavy pots around where you want to be can kind of help prevent some of that as well.
Okay, and I was thinking of your idea of lights. Could we
Yeah.
put posts on each corner and run lights around?
Oh, that would be lovely. Yep, for sure. In your case, lanterns and those sorts of hanging things would be very challenging because the wind would just take them
You have
everywhere.
you have to anchor the lights.
Yeah, so a cafe light would be lovely, and those would certainly be anchored at the corners, which would be fine.
Yeah, the thing that's so bad at Plum Island is the wind blows at 40 to 50 miles an hour. And you can't even open the doors,
Wow.
when you're especially that close to the ocean.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. Though it sounds beautiful being right on the ocean like that.
It is. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Do you have specific things that have been blowing away, or just in general?
Oh, anything like the siding on the house,
Oh,
the
well, I can
roof,
help you with that
the
too.
roof. I mean, it is, we changed a door. It took the storm door right off. So we put a slider in.
Yeah.
So I said to my son, walk around and ask people that had sliders. Is the sliders being affected? No, they're not. But can you imagine that the wind is so strong?
Yeah.
You have trouble getting in and out.
Yeah. So the doors were like.
See, there's no protection. There's no trees.
Yeah.
There's no other houses near us.
Mhm.
So it's wide open.
Yeah. Yeah. So some really heavy ceramic planters as well, with some grasses in them, might also be a nice thing to put around your seating area to help break a little bit of that wind. And that ceramic planter is not going anywhere.
Yeah. Good
So,
idea. Thanks.
yeah. And I see in the chat, someone was asking about what kind of stones I would recommend if they don't want to use grass. That's a great question. I would recommend, there's a couple of different options, and it depends on what color you're going for, and it kind of depends on the type of texture that you want under your feet. But some of the ones I like a lot are crushed bluestone, which is a very fine crushed stone. It's sort of, as it sounds, like a slate blue. It's very dark in color. It's a lovely stone. So it looks really great to anchor lighter areas, or if your house is lighter in color, that sort of thing, it looks really beautiful. Pea gravel is a very cost-effective alternative as well. And then there's something else that's called like California, like crushed granite or something like this. And that'll give you a very fine stone that's light, a creamy light white color. So those three sort of run the gamut. The pea gravel, it has a variety of colors in it. It's got browns and grays and things like that. So again, depending on your color palette, the pea gravel, if back when I was looking at gravel for my own home, was the least expensive option. Now that materials for building have gone up so much, I'm not sure if that's still the case, but yeah, take a peek at those options. So, and someone else had asked, I have a deck on my Florida house. Anything to add for that application? Getting lights. Awesome. So Diane, what are you looking for on your deck? Are you looking for just things that can really stand up to the ocean air, or are you looking for some more specific things?
You know, we have 3 decks. 2 are on the water and
Mhm.
one's on the other side and one's covered. So the covered deck right now just has a table and chairs on it, and it just
Yep.
looks barren because I haven't really known where to go with it.
Yeah,
I love the light idea, and I think we'll incorporate a fan with the ceiling light and a fan for the
genius.
mosquitoes.
Yep, love that.
But and then I was thinking of a swing, and when I
Oh,
looked at them on the internet, some of them had like chains, but I also saw some that had the beautiful thick rope,
yes.
you know,
Yep.
so, but that would still look kind of sterile, I think, with just the, you know, the swing and so I don't know. I was kind of just trying to take a little bit from all of your slides.
Sure. Yeah. So I think, you know, is your outdoor space where you have the table and chairs now, is it really large? Like, could it facilitate having 2 areas?
It's about 20 feet wide by 10 feet deep. And
Okay.
the ceiling's about 10 feet, so.
Okay. So it's a decent size. So it sounds like you could have, you know, your little dining area anchored with a little outdoor rug, that sort of thing. And then where you want the swing, just having something else with the swing. So maybe you have 2 swings, or maybe you have the swing and then you have like an upholstered lounge chair or something like that. And then maybe a little outdoor poof so you could put your feet up on it. Just having that maybe in one of the corners could be a good way to incorporate that swing and make it feel like it's an integrated part of the space. And then having some toss pillows that are the same visual color palette and graphics potentially over in the dining area, and then over on the swing. That having something that ties those spaces all together, I think will make it feel more integrated.
Yeah, I think the rugs sound great because I don't usually think of rugs outside, but that would absolutely, I think, tie it together too.
Yeah, yep, for sure. And someone asked what a cafe light is. That's a great question. So a cafe light is, I can actually go back to my presentation really quickly and show you what I mean by that. So let me see if I can find, okay. So this is a cafe light. It's basically a string of lights like Christmas lights, but it has an actual bulb on it. It feels more like a light bulb versus a tiny bulb like a Christmas light. So that's really all a cafe light is. And they come in a variety of different styles. You can see on the left, these lights are round and they're frosted, which will give you a softer light. These lights on the right are a clear glass and they're that Edison bulb. So you're going to see the filament inside. So it just adds more of a vintage feel. So there's a ton of options out there. You can find really great affordable ones on Amazon. I got mine from Target. And I tend to like to buy the ones that have a black cord. If you're going to put it in your trees, I would get the ones that have a green cord. So just another level of detail to think about when you're looking for your cafe lights. The black cord will make the exposed cord, if it's going overhead, feel a little bit more finished, and it will recede a little bit more. And then the green cord is great if you're putting them in the treed area as well. And I wanted to go back, Diane, to you really quickly. You had mentioned the swing with the rope or the chain. Generally, they do come with the chain, but if it doesn't come with the rope, there are a lot of DIY YouTube videos that'll tell you where to source the rope and how to hang it with the rope, how to tie the knot and everything. So that's definitely something that you can check out. If you just literally Google hanging swing with rope YouTube, you'll get a bunch of options that would help you with that.
Okay, because I think it adds a dimension and less sterile, like with the chain.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's such, for a beach house, it's such a nice level of detail. And you can get a whitewashed rope. You could get like the raw fiber rope that's brown. So there's also a ton of options there as well.
Thank you.
Yeah. And someone was asking, how can you tell if your large ceramic pot is okay to leave out year round? That's also a great question. I have found that sometimes if I have a plant in the pot and leave it out year round, it has been okay. Sometimes with the fluctuation in temperature, if I had an annual in the pot and there's dirt, but there's no plant in there, sometimes the pot has cracked in the past. So I think at the end of the day, if you are worried about leaving your pots out, if it's got a plant in it, that will come back next year. I would find a way to bring that pot inside. Or if you just had annuals in it, if you empty the dirt out of the pot, then it won't crack and it'll be fine to leave out year round. It's really, when I've left the dirt in the past, the temperature change causes the dirt to expand and contract, and it has cracked my pots. So again, generally, if you don't have a plant in there at the end of the year, just empty it out and leave it outside. It would be totally fine. Cool. I love all these questions. Any last questions about any fun design things before we wrap up? All right. Well, it was so fun chatting with all of you guys, and I appreciate you coming out on a Saturday, as Hillary said. I know when summer is here, it can be harder versus our dreary winters, but I always really enjoy speaking with all of you guys. So I appreciate all of your time, really do.
Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you everyone for coming. And that was just a phenomenal presentation. Again, they can find that at your website if they need to review anything. Great.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
wonderful.
That'll probably be up, by the end of the weekend this time.
Okay, and I think that I'll probably send out a survey to each of you if you would take the time to fill that out, probably this week. We're just looking to get some information as we will be, bringing more programs into the center rather than on Zoom. So we'll see, what it is you want to participate in and what you want us to continue. So I'm going to send out a survey for that, and thankfully you'll be able to fill that out. Oh, someone is asking a question. Sure.
Yes. Who are you?
I'm Hillary. I'm the Cummings Grant facilitator, coordinator. I'm the person behind the scenes who puts it all together.
Well, thank you. I might have missed it if you did it at the beginning, but
Yeah, that
I don't know that face. Thank you to both of you.
Of course. Thank you for coming, and we'll see you again soon.
Sounds good.
So bye, everyone.
Bye.
Take care.